morning from Bradenton. Welcome back to the Sunshine State Rails. Through the shenanigans of the COVID-19 virus, we rail fans are still out and going. So for us, this is all but an extension of our spring break that was already given to us. So the opportunity will be taken and trains will be caught. This first morning on March 21st, just a couple of days after my birthday, I'm tagging along with my friend Danny from PalmettoSubRailfan on YouTube to go catch a pretty special train this morning. Alright, so passing Bradenton right now with Danny.
Driving up 75.
Yeah, we're on our way to try to get K423. He's about at Dade City right now. And we're still down here. He's got a Ferromex SD78 leading. And we need to catch that.
Yeah, oh yeah. We got some Mexican trains.
And this thing kind of snuck up on us, so we're gonna have to do what we can do.
Yep.
It's about 5 minutes to 9 a.m. as we roll down Turkey Creek Road to make it to the small town of Dover on the S line. This ethanol train was not merciful to any rail fans this morning, making it from Dade City to Plant City in a mere 45 minutes. With us hopping out of the truck and setting up at a makeshift private crossing, we only had a few minutes before this train showed up out of the trees and made our cameras and faces light up. May not be exactly evident, but what this shot is showing is teamwork, and that's another thing that rail fanning is truly about. The short chase was then on to Tampa. We couldn't get up to the engines for a pacing shot because, like I said, this ethanol train is not merciful whatsoever today. By the time we made it to 78th Street, the train had beat us here too, but this was an opportunity to meet up with a bunch of my great rail fanning friends, so we stuck here anyway. Plus, a yard switcher was working here. First off, special thanks to my friend Max for helping me catch this train. Also, great thanks to my friends Stetson, Chase, and Trevor for meeting up with us at 78th Street. Danny and Stetson will appear a bit in this video as well. My friends, this is the Juice Train. As our last catch in Tampa this day before we'd head back, we would catch 0823 coming into Yeoman Yard after making his way north from Bradenton with loaded Tropicana reefers and some questionable scrap guns on the very end. Dispatchers don't control switches inside yards, so they must be thrown manually. And to do that, the train must stop. And so does all this traffic. Once 0823 got past here, we knew we got what we wanted today, so it was our time to head back home. Officially my first ever catch of Faramex. However, amidst all this, there was another K423 on his way to Tampa. We would be back out to catch this train, so it was 5 a.m. at my friend Stetson's house as we got up to catch it.
When we wake up at 5 a.m. to find out K423 is a Wildwood.
From there, we wouldn't have a lot of time to play with before this 423 would make it to Tampa, so we went straight to 78th Street for the catch. As K42321 snakes his way through the switches at YN, the sun is just beginning to shed light. This K423 had power that was not to be complained about either. As K423 hauls his 5,500 feet of corn syrup into the yard, we'll go ahead and take this time to explain a couple of things. There was a particular video that I made a few months ago that was explaining how Tampa had lost most of its ethanol trains. That statement in and of itself was not true. We haven't lost those trains, but the frequency of them coming in is very, very low. As compared to K423s that we are getting most often, there still are K421s, K425s, and K427s. It is still possible to get these trains, but it is pretty rare because they don't run very often anymore. There's also a couple of ethanol trains that come to Tampa from Indiana, K708 and K476. All of these ethanol trains originate on other railroads. This one in particular would be coming off of the Canadian Pacific. So it's no doubt that chances are when this train has foreign power it will, like here, have CP. Gave it about 20 more minutes and 0709 showed up. This train is leaving Tampa with freight cars bound for customers near Plant City. About another hour goes by before the next train shows up. Turns out that there was a K422 planned to leave Yeoman this morning. K422 is ethanol empties back to Bensenville, Illinois, the empty version of K423. The train that would be to go back north this morning would be the same train that we caught coming in a couple days earlier with the Faramex Ace. The two BNSF GEs in the trail were gone by now, but the power assigned to this train was a CSX and the Faramex SD70 Ace. Would switch tracks to back onto the ethanol train, and once the crew performed a brake test, the train was ready to head north. train was ready to head north, but they would spend about another hour setting off bad cars before they would actually take off. So it was then that we decided to take a break from rail fanning and came back out to Plant City at about noon. Remember 0709 that left Tampa this morning? He's still working Plant City, and he had clearance to come across the diamond to head to the customer that will receive those 3 white box cars. Plant City was a fairly hot location right now. Amtrak 91 was coming back out of Tampa on his way to Miami, and it would be his clearance that would allow another train to come across the interlocking. I know you guys couldn't really hear that on the radio, but what train could this be coming through Plant City at 1 p.m. on a Tuesday? Well, it's a train that we haven't gotten in quite some time. CSX train K427. This is K42721. This is one of those ethanol trains that Tampa rarely gets anymore. K427 is ethanol loads off of the Iowa Interstate Railway at Blue Island, Illinois, bound for Tampa, Florida. You know, there's little things about these trains that I really do notice. What I love about K427s and K421s mostly is that they have a lot of these older, worn down ethanol tank cars, such as the ones with UTLX or ADMX reporting marks. While he does have a number of almost brand new TILX cars mixed in here, he's mostly made up of old, worn down, nostalgic tank cars. And it's these that I love because it really gives off the vibe of an ethanol train rolling through this old town. K423s that roll through here are mostly, if not all, brand new shiny VMSX tank cars.
Alright. 60.0 is the CSXT 6119 with SC Baker copying them.
With K427 clearing Plant City, that would mark 2 things. Number 1, the first K427 that Tampa will have received in 10 months, and number 2, the most ethanol trains that I've ever gotten out here in one day, 3. K423 this morning, K422 leaving, and then this K427. On some personal business with Stetson's family, we ended up making our way to Ocala. We would be able to get down to the tracks for a couple of trains, so here they are. First one was Q442, daily mixed freight out of Tampa bound for Waycross, Georgia. And once he gets to Ocala, you can tell that these guys don't mess around here. accounts of the reason we were up here, we would end up staying the night in Ocala. So we would get our last train overnight. Overnight was not an understatement. This train we came out for came at 4:30 a.m. But don't think we came all the way out here without a very good reason. There was a unit train approaching us from the north that hasn't ran in a long time. CSX train K85121. This is a train coming off of the Canadian National at Chicago Clearing bound for Winston Yard at Lakeland. K851 is usually solid potash bound for the U.S. Sugar Railroad at Sebring, but that's not what he was this time. This time he was something to behold. Tonight, K851 is running as a solid molten sulfur train bound for the Bone Valley. Molten sulfur, which is hauled in these tiny little tank cars, is usually found on long distance mixed freights, but this time they put it on an even longer distance K train. Molten sulfur used to run as its own train all the time years ago, but as for now, we haven't gotten one of these unit trains in over a year and a half. So even if the train didn't have two Canadian National locomotives leading, this train would have been something to catch for the year anyway. And off he goes, winding through the curves in downtown Ocala. 90 cars full of sulfur that will eventually end up in the New Wales phosphate facility. This would be it for us. We still had a few hours of sleep to get in before we would make the drive back home the next morning. So thanks for joining us on this little Railfan trip over our extended spring break. Very special thanks to Stetson and Danny for making these two videos possible. And I'll see you guys next time on the Sunshine State Rails.